Have you ever struggled with losing weight and getting healthy, especially as you've gotten older? Me too. And that's why in this first official episode of the Ditch the Carbs podcast, I wanted to start by sharing my own story, along with some of the simple changes that I made to finally lose those extra 40 pounds and actually keep it off for good. Welcome to the Ditch the Carbs podcast, brought to you by Thinlicious. I'm your host, Ruth Soukup, and here we'll talk about everything from the science of weight loss and metabolic flexibility to practical tips for making your health a priority in the midst of a very busy life. It's the perfect blend of insightful education, practical application, and good old-fashioned motivation. So buckle up, friend, because it's about to get real. Hey there, and welcome to the first official episode of the Ditch the Carbs podcast. My name is Ruth Soukup, and I'm the founder of Thinlicious and the Thin Adapted System, as well as the founder of a few other brands you may have heard of, like Living Well, Spending Less and Elite Blog Academy, as well as the New York Times bestselling author of 7 books, at least so far. And yes, in case you're wondering, that is a tiny hint that there could eventually be another book in the works, but not anytime soon. But while I've been writing blogs and books and creating products for quite a while now, this past year, I actually made a pretty dramatic shift in my business and in my focus. You see, I launched this whole new brand called Thinlicious, which is all about healthy, sustainable weight loss and is based on the idea that getting healthy shouldn't have to suck, right? It should actually taste and feel good. And my goal with this new brand is to help women over 40, women who are a lot like me, finally be able to take control of their health with a simple, flexible, and sustainable system for losing weight that actually works. But the idea for this simple, flexible system, it didn't just come out of nowhere, right? It wasn't divine intervention, although sometimes I think the idea for this brand was maybe divine intervention. That's a whole nother story. But no, the idea for this system actually was born out of my own struggle. And man, oh man, did I struggle, like really struggle for years and years and years and years. I mean, honestly, at this point in my life, I pretty much consider myself a diet connoisseur. Like, I'm the sommelier of diets. I've literally tried every diet out there, I think, at some point. I'm not even kidding. It's almost like a little embarrassing to admit how many different diets I have tried over the years. Like, raise your hand if you're also cringing right now thinking about that. But let's see if I can name them. There was the fat flesh diet. Have you heard of that one? It's not good. The zero belly diet, the green smoothie diet, juice cleanses, multiple juice cleanses where I would order all the juices online. I am sad to say that it was not even just one particular brand. I ordered a whole bunch of different ones. The cabbage soup diet. I did that one a whole bunch of times. There was the GM diet, which I don't even know. There was like a day on that where all you could eat was a potato. It was very weird. Don't look it up. It's not good. Weight Watchers, Noom, F Factor, Bistro MD, Sunbasket. I went vegan for a while. I did the Mediterranean diet. I did low fat. I did high fiber. Oh my goodness. The list goes on and on. I even tried this app that pairs you up with a personal coach. So you sign up for the app and then you take pictures of everything that you eat. And this coach is supposed to give you feedback and hold you accountable about your food. And it was great for a couple of weeks when I was on this healthy eating kick. I was getting all this great feedback and I felt great. But then, like I always do, I went off the rails and I got super embarrassed by what I was eating. So I just stopped taking pictures of my food and ended up ghosting my coach, right? She kept texting me, she kept messaging me, and I just wouldn't respond because I was so embarrassed. And then I thought that maybe more exercise would help. So I hired a personal trainer and I started working out 3 days a week. And that was good for my mental health. And that was good for a lot of reasons, but I didn't really see any changes happen on the scale, right? So then I decided to start running. I was like, well, maybe I need more cardio. So I started running. And that didn't work either. And so when none of that worked, I started to get desperate. I'm not going to lie, I went to a Medi Spa and did a consult for liposuction. And I didn't do liposuction. I was a little scared of that, but I did, I'm embarrassed to admit, end up paying like literally thousands of dollars for a non-surgical lipo alternative, where they like freeze your fat off. Yep, I sure did. And spoiler alert, that didn't work either. And here's the thing. It's not that I would never, ever, ever lose any weight, right? I was the queen of dieting and I was the queen of yo-yo dieting. Sometimes I'd lose 5 pounds. Sometimes it'd be 10 pounds, sometimes even 15 pounds. Once I even lost 25 pounds and that felt pretty amazing. But then I would gain it back every single time. Again and again and again and again. And not only gain it back, but then gain it back plus a little extra for good measure because, right, I was so hungry from those starvation diets that I would go completely off the rails. And so for years, I was on this yo-yo cycle of on again, off again diets, alternating between feeling miserable because I couldn't eat and feeling miserable because I had once again eaten too much or totally blown it, right? It was this shame cycle, losing weight, then gaining it back over and over and over and over and over again. And if you've ever struggled with this, then you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. It takes its toll because so often this battle to lose weight and to get a handle on our eating habits for women, I mean, I'm not a man, so I can't speak for men, but as a woman, it feels so isolating and so lonely. We don't want to talk about it because we're embarrassed. And yet there's so much shame that happens when we don't feel good about ourselves and about our body. It erodes our confidence. It changes the way that we put ourselves out into the world. It affects our relationships and our sex life, and it's exhausting. And hear me out on this because it does not matter. It does not matter if you are 100 pounds overweight or 20 pounds overweight because perception is reality. And if you don't feel good about yourself and you don't feel good about your body, then it doesn't matter what the scale says, right? It doesn't matter. And I'm just going to go off on a little tangent here, but because I've gotten a little flack for this, not much, but a few people here and there who have criticized the name Thinlicious. When I launched this brand, they've said, oh, well, maybe you're fat shaming, or I'm so disappointed. It feels like you're saying the only way to be healthy is to be skinny. But it's not really about that. To me, it's about our own perception of ourselves, right? Because at my heaviest, someone may have looked at me and thought that I looked just fine. My husband certainly did. He wasn't complaining. He loved my curves and he really loved my big boobs. He was not the one who was pressuring me to lose weight. But I didn't feel good about myself, right? That was the problem, is that I didn't feel good about myself. I was embarrassed, and that shame was affecting so many other parts of my life. But yet at the same time, I just couldn't seem to get a handle on it. I couldn't get anything to stick long term. I'd lose a little bit of weight and then I'd gain it back. And then I'd get so fed up, right, with this. I'd get so exhausted by this journey that I'd try to go to like the body positivity side. I was like, it's fine. Extra weight's not that bad, right? It's great. Their bodies of all shapes and sizes are beautiful. And that's true, right? That's true. But I still didn't feel great. And so even though I didn't, I keep trying to tell myself it wasn't so bad and that people probably didn't notice. And I'm really tall, so it's okay to be a little bit heavier. And then I'd go buy more Spanx, right? Lots and lots of Spanx. I had a whole drawer full of Spanx. Spanx is great. Spanx is amazing. Sarah Blakely is a billionaire for a reason, right? Spanx is amazing. But I still didn't feel great. Didn't feel great about myself. And it was affecting all of these pieces of my life. So what exactly changed to finally get me off of this doom loop, which is exactly what it felt like, right? This doom loop. I just could not get out of this shame spiral. Well, for me, it was that I guess I just hit my breaking point. My breaking point was very specific. I can pinpoint it exactly. I saw a picture that someone else had taken of me, and it was the heaviest that I had ever been. I weighed more when that picture was taken than I had weighed when I gave birth to my oldest daughter, right? That was prior to that, being 9 months pregnant was the heaviest I had ever been. But no, this was the heaviest I had ever been. And yet I was still trying to tell myself that it was fine and nobody could notice. But when I saw that picture, it was hard to deny it, right? I was like seeing myself through someone else's eyes for the very first time. And I almost like didn't even recognize myself. I was like, who is that? Because it didn't look like me. I didn't look like myself. And it kind of scared me because I realized that's not me. And that was, I think, for me, the true moment that I realized that something needed to give, something needed to change. And this was not how I wanted to live my life. But after so many previous failures, after having tried and failed to lose weight so many times, I also knew that I had to stop. Like the definition of crazy is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And I was literally on this crazy cycle for years and years and years. And so I knew I had to stop dieting and actually commit to changing my life for good, right? I had to commit to a permanent lifestyle change, and I needed to find a way of eating that would actually work for my life, because that was the problem. I couldn't imagine doing any of those diets for life. It was hard enough to stick with them for like 2 weeks, much less forever. Right. And I needed to live my life. I'm busy. I travel. I have a business. So I needed to be able to eat out multiple times a week, right? I needed to be able to go to a restaurant and feel like I could still enjoy myself. I needed to be able to socialize and to drink with my friends and to feel like I'm not giving up every good part of my life just because I want to be healthy. I needed something super flexible and super easy because I don't have a lot of time, especially during the week. Not only that, I needed to be able to eat food and to cook food that my whole family would happily eat, because I was not about to try to cook 2 separate meals all the time. And this was a really important thing for me. I needed my teenage daughters to see me eating and not starving myself. Those of you who have teenage daughters, you understand this, right? Girls grow up with so many food issues. And I am determined as a mom to not be the cause of their food issues. And so if that means being heavier than I need to be, then so be it. But I want them to see me being healthy and to eating healthily and doing all those things. And then finally, I could just never be hungry. I can't function when I am hungry. It is not good. I get hangry. I get totally distracted, and I'm running multiple businesses. There's not time. Ain't nobody got time for that. So that was kind of my criteria, right? Going into it. That was my criteria. Okay, I'm willing to commit to a healthy lifestyle if I can have all of these things. And if not, then forget it. I guess I'll just have to be heavy forever. I'll just have to resign myself to being heavier than I want to. So the thing is, though, I think in all this time that I was looking for a solution to my weight loss program, I never really relied on my own ability to figure things out. I was always looking to somebody else for the answer. I was always looking to the quick fix, the fad diet, the next big thing. And I didn't really think to take what I'm actually good at, right? The superpower that I am really good at is taking topics that tend to be really confusing to people and taking huge amounts of research and data and case studies and experimentations and distilling all of that information down into something that is simple and easy to understand. And that's literally what I do best, right? That's how I've built my businesses. That's what I've done for online business owners at Elite Blog Academy. It's what I've done for women who want to get more organized and have better home systems at Living Well, Spending Less. And yet it had never occurred to me to do that for health and weight loss for my own situation. And so it wasn't until I was so frustrated from literally trying every other thing out there that I just had to find a better way. And so I started to dig into the science, and I read literally dozens of books and did so much research and read so many studies. And ultimately, what I learned through all of this is that so much of what we have been told about weight loss over the past 50 years is wrong, like flat out wrong, opposite. We're an upside down world. And it's not even backed up by research, but instead it's a result of these long held biases that say people are overweight because they eat too much and exercise too little, right? Like that's basically it. Well, it's a simple matter of calories in and calories out if you eat too much and exercise, except it's wrong. It's just wrong. And there is so much misinformation out there about what is actually healthy. And that it's actually scary. It's downright scary to me to realize how much of the current public and governmental dietary recommendations that are out there, how much of what we believe to be true about health and weight loss is actually funded and propagated by companies that do not have your best interest in mind, right? Their interest is to keep you fat. Their interest is to keep you sick. Their interest is to keep you addicted to eating their food so that they can make more money. And so we've been told that weight loss is calories in, calories out, and that you should avoid fat, right? Fat is bad, and that you need whole grains, and that if you're overweight, it's because you don't have enough willpower, or you're not exercising enough, or you're eating too much, or there's something wrong with you. But none of that is actually true. And what's more, when you eat the right things, this is what I've learned. When you eat the right things and you cut out the wrong things, weight loss isn't even a problem, right? It's actually effortless or almost effortless. And so that was pretty crazy, like huge revelations. And that was it for me. No more dieting, and instead changing my lifestyle and committing to that this is it. I am not going to diet. I will never count another calorie for the rest of my life. I am going to change the way that I eat. I'm going to change the way that I eat for good. And you know what else? It worked. I lost more than 40 pounds, and now I have maintained that weight loss for 2 years. And honestly, I feel better than I've ever felt in my adult life. I have more energy. I get up, I run every day with my dogs. Like I love it. I work 12 hours a day, not because I have to, but because I love what I do and it's fun and I have enough energy. And then I get done working after a 12-hour day and I go and make an amazing dinner for my family because I still have energy, which I never used to do, right? I used to be exhausted at the end of a workday and could not even fathom the thought of spending an hour in the kitchen cooking dinner. And so it's amazing. And honestly, I can't stop talking about it. I really can't, as you can hear, because I can't stop talking about it on this podcast. But honestly, all I want to do now is help other women feel this good. And that might sound dumb or cheesy or whatever, but when you have struggled with something for so many years and years, and then you finally figure it out, it is unbelievable to understand what that does for you. And I am so passionate about this topic because I know now how life-changing it can be to finally get a handle on this area of your life. Suddenly, all the things that felt impossible feel doable. There's more energy, right? I have more confidence. I look better. I feel better. And it's just a whole new world. So yeah, I get a little fired up about it. And if any part, I want to say this too, if any part of this story resonates with you, then I want you to know that I'm just so freaking excited that you are here for this podcast, that you're joining me, that you're listening to this. But I also don't want my story to end there, right? That's not the end, because at this point, you're probably thinking, well, Ruth, that's great. You lost 40 pounds and you've been able to keep it off. Good for you, right? But what did you actually do? That's the thing, right? Like, what did you actually do? You want the nitty gritty of exactly what changed for me. And I get it, because I would want to know the exact nitty gritty too. So don't worry, I'm not going to leave you hanging. So what did I do specifically? Well, let's talk about it, because the most significant thing that I did was that I cut out sugar, refined carbohydrates, and any artificial sweeteners that spike your blood sugar. And by artificial sweeteners, I mean the chemical sweeteners. So things like aspartame, saccharin, and sucralose. And I'm just going to go on another little tiny tangent here, so forgive me. But the reality is that so much of our weight gain and a whole lot of other health issues in our life really are a direct result of an overabundance of sugar and carbohydrates in the modern Western diet. It's it, right? Like, sugar is the thing that's killing us. And when I say sugar, I mean carbohydrates too, because carbohydrates and sugar, your body thinks those things are the same thing. So most significantly, I ditched the carbs, hence the name of this podcast, right? I ditched the carbs. I cut out sugar. I cut out refined carbohydrates. But if you're like, yep, right, you lost me right there. Let me keep going, because there's so much evidence. This is really a scary thing. This is something that I read about over and over and over again as I was diving into the research. There's so much evidence that shows just how deadly sugar and flour and white flour are when it gets introduced to a culture of society. We think that people are being dramatic when they talk about sugar is killing us, but it actually is, right? Because you can actually pinpoint it. If you go back and read the studies and read the research, within 10 years of bringing in sugar and white flour to a society that previously did not have those things, the amount of heart disease in that society, obesity, diabetes, cancer, all those things will skyrocket. They go from a culture and a society that has no cancer, no heart disease, no obesity, right? They're healthy people. And all of a sudden, within 10 years of bringing sugar and white flour to a culture, boom, everybody's sick. And you know what else? As soon as you cut those things out of your diet, literally within weeks, your health will improve exponentially. And the reason for that is that insulin is what causes your body to store fat. And so when your blood sugar spikes, your body releases more insulin. And when you cut out sugar and carbohydrates and those bad artificial sweeteners, doing that, cutting those things out, means your blood sugar will stabilize. And that allows your body to burn more fat and work more efficiently. And a lot of us assume that, diet sodas and other diet things are okay because they don't have any calories. But if they have the wrong type of sweeteners, which a lot of them do, right? Sucralose is everywhere. They're actually a big part of the problem. And that was shocking to me. So if you think that you're doing good by drinking Diet Coke, but you're drinking that every day, you could actually be hurting yourself. So a big part of my own success with losing weight and keeping it off was just understanding how to keep my blood sugar stable by cutting out sugar, by cutting out refined carbohydrates, and cutting out those bad sweeteners. And And honestly, when people try to tell me that that's not healthy or you need to have everything in moderation, right? You shouldn't cut out a whole food group. I hear that sometimes. That's when I really fight back, because no one needs sugar, guys. No one needs refined carbohydrates or white flour. You do not need those things. Your body can live without those things. In fact, your body does not want those things. Nobody needs those things. Nobody needs chemical sweeteners. There is literally no nutritional value in any of those things. And so you are not jeopardizing your health by cutting them out. In fact, you are saving your health. You are saving yourself because they are killers. And the evidence is there, even if a lot of companies have worked really, 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 really hard to keep that information hidden from the public. And it's everywhere. It's so prevalent. I literally just read an article like an hour ago about breakfast cereals and the cereal aisle, which is what I refer to as the poison aisle, because it's probably one of the worst, right? Cereal has always been marketed as this super healthy thing. And some of the cereals that claim to be the healthiest, right? They're called, like, have all these super healthy sounding names, and they have big hearts on the front saying that they're heart healthy, are actually so packed full of sugar you wouldn't even believe it. And they're created, they've got so many chemicals in them, and they are chemically manufactured to be addictive, which is why you can sit down and eat a whole box of cereal in one sitting and not even feel full. That's why. And so just be careful about that kind of stuff. Remember that those companies do not have your best interest in mind. There's a lot of information that they are trying very hard to keep hidden from the public. And that is the biggest thing, that sugar and refined carbohydrates are killing you. So that was my big first thing that I did, was cutting out sugar and refined carbohydrates. But it wasn't just that. And this is really important too, because at the same time I was cutting out sugar and carbohydrates, I was increasing my protein and fat consumption and getting lots and lots and lots of healthy fat. Because if you're going to cut out on carbs, you need to make sure that you're replacing it with something. And a lot of times people will make that mistake, right? They'll cut out carbs, but they won't increase their protein or their healthy fat, or they'll eat too much protein and not enough healthy fat. And that's a big deal too. And so in all my years of trying all of these things, right, and all of these diets that I'd ever tried, I actually had done keto before. And when I said the one diet that I lost 25 pounds, that was actually when I did lose 25 pounds, right? It worked the best of all the things that I tried. And that was why I was so willing to try going low carb again. But the problem was that the last time I did keto, I was a vegetarian. And I also was following sort of traditional keto, but I didn't really know what I was doing. And I wasn't paying attention. So I was eating fat and low carb and moderate protein. But then after about 25 pounds, I hit a plateau and I just couldn't seem to lose any more weight. And I was so bored because I was a vegetarian that there weren't that many things that I could eat. And so finally I went off the rails and I started eating carbs, and I started eating more carbs than ever before. And yes, I gained it all back. And so this time after I cut out sugar, started researching and realized just how bad sugar and refined carbohydrates are for you, I did more research than just that. And I realized that my problem before was, number one, that I wasn't getting nearly enough protein. But number two, I wasn't eating enough healthy fats. I was eating fats, but they weren't that healthy, right? I was eating a lot of vegetable oils and seed oils. And so I started adding in a lot more healthy fat, things like avocado oil, olive oil, butter, MCT oil, full fat dairy products. And then I started adding in a lot more protein as well. And I started eating meat, which is a big deal. After being a vegetarian for 28 years. Yes, I did. I sure did. And I love it now. And I'm not going to debate with you the being vegetarian versus eating meat. All I will say is that I'm healthier and I feel better now than I ever have. So there's no turning back for me. But a lot of us, those of us who grew up in the 80s and 90s in the fat-free craze, we have been conditioned to be scared of fat. right? We have been told our whole lives that fat is bad, but fat is so important because as it turns out, fat is actually what makes you feel full. It's what makes you feel satisfied. And most importantly for women, especially women of a certain age, as I am, it helps to regulate your hormones. If you're not getting enough fat, your hormones are all out of whack, and that is not good, right? And so in case you're wondering, I do eat, a lot of people are like, yeah, I could never give up vegetables. I eat plenty of vegetables. I eat spinach, broccoli, green beans, bell peppers, cauliflower. I eat lots of salads. I eat low glycemic fruits, especially berries like strawberries, blueberries, raspberries. And I love it, right? There is no limit to the amount of delicious food that I get to eat because I don't have to count calories. I get to eat all of this amazing food that's high fat and delicious and natural and so good. And so it's just wonderful. But the next thing that I want to point out is that adopting a low carb lifestyle rather than just trying to follow another diet, right? Because even when I was doing keto, and I have that in air quotes that you can't see right now, but when I was doing keto, in my mind, it was still a temporary thing, right? This wasn't something that I was going to do forever. This was going to be something that I did for a while. But when I changed my mindset to go, you know what? I can do this permanently because I'm eating such delicious food. I'm eating food that I love. I don't feel deprived in any way. Adopting that lifestyle allowed me to become more intuitive and more natural with my eating. And so I just kind of eat when I'm hungry and I eat until I feel full, right? And I don't count calories. I'm done. I'm done with dieting. I don't ever have to worry about it. And hear me out because this really is a big deal to me. As a mom to two very impressionable teenage girls, one of the most important things to me was to be able to eat normally and to not ever let them see me restricting or dieting. And so I eat a lot. I eat the most delicious food. I eat the most delicious food that they think is delicious, right? They eat exactly what I do. Side by side, I make dinner. They don't really know the difference. And does that mean that they never eat sugar? Nope, it absolutely doesn't. They're teenagers and they eat a lot of crap. But when we are home and when we are together as a family, there's no difference. And that's amazing. It's because it's not diet food. It's delicious food. And it allows me to be so much more free with food. I don't really have to think about it. And so because I try to only eat when I'm hungry, I do actually end up doing some intermittent fasting here and there. Intermittent fasting is a big thing, and there's a lot of great reasons why intermittent fasting is really healthy and it allows your blood sugar to stabilize. And I'm sure I'll do an episode on it at some point. And so sometimes I'll go as long as 16 hours without eating, without really thinking about it. But I'm also not super rigid about it, right? I just kind of want to live my life. That's my priority. So if I feel like eating, I will eat. If I don't feel like eating, I won't eat. And whereas food used to control me and it would be something that was constantly on my mind, I just find that it's not anymore. But the final piece of the puzzle was probably the most important to me when it came to losing weight and keeping it off. And that's that I worked on my mindset, right? I stopped viewing the process of getting healthy and losing weight as a temporary thing that I had to endure for a short amount of time. Because here's the deal. Changing the way that you think about food also means that you stop focusing on what you can't have and instead start relishing all of the amazing, delicious, and completely satiating food that you actually get to eat. Because if you tell yourself that you're being deprived because you can't eat piles of pasta and French fries and potato chips and bread, if you tell yourself that, right? If you're like, oh, I can't believe I can't eat that, then you're always going to feel deprived. So much of how we view the world starts with how we think about the world, with our thoughts and with the story that we're telling ourselves. And so I really realized that I needed to stop telling myself that story because I always would tell myself that story. I would tell myself, oh, well, I love Doritos. I can't live in a world without Doritos or potato chips. But that's not true. I can easily live in a world without Doritos and potato chips. I don't even miss them, because instead, the story that I started telling myself every day is, oh my gosh, look at all this amazing food that I get to eat. This is so delicious. And oh my gosh, it is so nice to be able to eat until I am completely satisfied and never have to feel hungry again. And oh my gosh, it is amazing to be able to eat out at any restaurant and still be able to choose something completely delicious from the menu. And let me tell you, when I stopped focusing on the few foods that I cut out and instead started celebrating all of the delicious food that I get to enjoy without limit, it honestly feels like the best thing that I've ever done for myself. This is just the way that I eat now. And I love it so much. I get to eat delicious food and as much of it as I want. Seriously, what more could you ever want? And like I said, the freedom of that, the freedom of not being controlled by wondering what I'm going to eat next, and the freedom of not being controlled by that shame spiral of either feeling guilty for eating delicious food or feeling miserable because I don't get to eat it. The freedom from walking away from that life and instead embracing this one, man, that in and of itself would be enough. I mean, the 40 pounds is a bonus to that, because the freedom is what I really, truly love. So that's pretty much it. The big changes that I made to not just lose 40 pounds, but also to keep it off. And I will say it took me just under 6 months to actually lose the weight, to lose that full 40 pounds. And now I have maintained it for 2 years and counting. And in case you're wondering how to get started or how you can do this, then surprise, you're in exactly the right place, because at Thinlicious, we have so many amazing resources to get you on the right path. We really do. Thinlicious, that's why I created it, right? To help people learn this system that worked so well for me and now has worked for thousands of customers over the past year, which is so, so cool. So if you're ready to get started, I strongly recommend starting with our 28-day metabolism reset, which you can get immediate access to if you go to thinlicious.com/reset. Or if you just want to find out more about how to get started or how things work or how our program works, you can grab our free guide at thinlicious.com/guide. So those are some great resources and some great places to start. Again, that's thinlicious.com/reset or thinlicious.com/guide. But in the meantime, be sure to subscribe or follow this podcast on iTunes or wherever you like to listen, because I'm going to have such great content available for you week after week after week. And if you're just kind of on the fence and just wondering, like, is this right for me? Where do I go for this? I don't know, Ruth. Like, it sounds good, but I'm not there yet. Then keep listening, right? Keep listening and keep learning, because I firmly believe that the more you listen or the more you learn and the more you educate yourself on why this way of eating is so beneficial, that it's hard to go back, right? Once your eyes begin to become open, it's hard to think about, like, your mind starts to shift and you go, wait, I don't want to do this to my body anymore. So that's my challenge to you. But if you are liking this content so far, then I would absolutely love it if you would leave me a review on iTunes. Send me a screenshot. We will be actually choosing listeners at random each week to win some fabulous prizes. So that's good motivation. But also, we're a brand new podcast. And so those reviews really help other people decide whether or not to listen. And that would just be so, so appreciated. And if you have any questions or you just want to connect, please feel free to shoot me an email at hello@thinlicious.com. And then I will see you back here for another new episode very, very soon. That's all for now. See ya.